Did Sim Update 2 fix Microsoft Flight Sim 24? What are the main things that have changed with Sim Update 2? Would I now recommend Flight Sim 24 to my glorious channel members and subscribers? And why on earth did Microsoft do one of the worst game launches in the history of video games with the original release of this game? Find out in this glorious, highly arousing, beautiful Gamer Muscle video. Remember, you need to be a subscriber if you want the power to unsubscribe when I upset you with critical comments. Click the like button if you enjoy hair loss. And right this second, you should already be drinking tea. Thank you to all our channel members, supporters, Patreons and people that have wasted money and time on us. It's really appreciated. Without you, we wouldn't be here. I hate to say it, but Sim Update 2 is probably the best update this simulator's had so far. Now let's not get too carried away. Sadly, the simulator still does crash at random, though a lot less frequently. There are still some weird stutter issues and some interesting bugs. You will still find random trees on runways and bizarre single-player mission structure and flight paths and all those kind of silly things. They've not fixed any of that yet. Maybe in the next decade they will do. But fundamentally, the best way to put this, after Sim Update 2, Flight Sim 24 basically is what I was expecting Flight Sim 24 to be at launch. A game that's really fun, evolves aspects of Flight Sim 2020, brings some new things to the table, but still needs quite a bit more polish. Now I know lots of our handsome viewers are playing Flight Sim 2020 and they're going to ask me the question, should I go to 24 now? Is it at that point? And I would say, yeah, no, yeah. Which means it depends, and depends on the type of Flight Sim 2020 player you are. If you've got 2020 set up with your mods, you've got it all looking nice, it's all running, it's all installed, you're happy with it, you've got your career mods and everything else, I think you're probably still going to want to stick with 2020 for the most part. And like anything in life, if you already enjoy something and you're having fun with it, why change things up? Why mess around with it? Keep doing what you're enjoying. It's like a good cup of tea. You don't need to add special sugar and extra flavours to it. A tea bag's a tea bag. It does the job. You don't change it. It's working. But I think there are some features in 24 that will be particularly appealing to maybe some of the more casual players of 2020 and players just looking for something a little bit different to do than what's in 2020. And some of those features are things like the missions that you have. On the screen, you can see we're doing the rally mode where you've got to fly through gates and you then have a scoreboard on that. And you also have like a weekly challenge where you can do a landing, a rally mode and some other modes. And you've got a score there so you can compete, you can improve. There's more gameplay there. And that is something that was really lacking in Flight Sim 2020. And now in Flight Sim 2024, this sort of stuff actually works quite a bit better, with them also adding more modes to it and the scoreboards and everything else actually all updating and working fairly decently. So if you're looking for more of that kind of gameplay stuff built into the game, that is where Flight Sim 2024 really shines. Though, as we said earlier, you can't take the single player that's built into the game too seriously. Though I think the missions, landing challenges, many of them that were taken from Flight Sim 2020, but some of the new challenges, though I think they're absolutely fantastic and really fun to play now and will certainly be appealing to more casual players, the single player career mode that's built into the game still doesn't really make much sense. The general progress through it, the fact that the missions take like 30 minutes to 2.5 hours only for the runway that you're meant to land on to have a tree or a building on it still, or for the game to still crash at random, or for just the general structure of it to not really make that much sense, despite it demanding you to really put a lot of time into it and take it seriously. It doesn't really quite work as a single player. I think the mods on air and those kind of mods actually do a better job of fulfilling that role of giving you a flight to do and are more consistent in Flight Sim 2020. But if you go into it with an open mind and the willingness to be tortured by Microsoft, given that it does crash less now, and again it is all in a streamlined package, the convenience of it is really, really appealing with Flight Sim 24, especially over Flight Sim 2020. And perhaps the biggest and most significant change I noticed with Sim Update 2 is I found the game to actually run much more stable. Though I was playing Sim Update 1 on a 5090 with an X3D AMD 5800 chip, and we are still playing it on that setup now with Sim Update 2, so we have a very high-end system. And I do know some people have reported they still have stutter issues, especially with textures on higher settings, and they still need to fiddle with it, and it's not quite just immediately running smooth. But from me going side to side from Sim Update 1 to Sim Update 2, I just found everything to be a lot more consistent, a lot fewer frame drops. Really noticeable is when you go from the menu into the aeroplane and it does that whole matrix drop through the clouds camera thing. That would pause and judder and do weird stuff as it was loading in. And now that is just a lot more seamless and actually really, really quite impressive. I'm using an AB9 force feedback joystick, and I noticed that consistency that you have in the game and in the menu and those transition points means that my joystick's no longer completely spasming out like it did with Sim Update 1. So I guess even the telemetry coming out of the game is not being hitched and held up by things, and the telemetry coming out of the game is what drives the force feedback on that joystick. So I think what you see with Sim Update 2 is a lot of under the hood core game engine work, which will then permeate itself into the rest of Flight Sim 24. And again, it begs the question, those are the things that should have been done by the developer before they launched the title. The fundamental running of the game engine at a base level, I think, is kind of important. And then the gameplay is important. But the game should generally work before you sell it. And I really feel that we're playing Sim Update 2 now. It really feels to me like this is now actually a sort of simulator that you'd expect to buy. Like, it still has bugs, it still has problems, but it's not totally janky. It doesn't feel like a pre-alpha quality assurance test version or an early press version that's been handed out to people early. It now actually feels to use like an actual legitimate consumer video game. Again, not perfect though. And I think the decisions with the streaming components, when it's actually working, will pay dividends in the long run and do make this a much more accessible product. And not to jump the gun, because it's not there yet, but the beta for Sim Update 3 will allow people to fully download everything. So if you don't like the data streaming and that component, you could buy yourself a 3 terabit hard drive and cram it to the max with your Flight Sim data. And I think at that point, Sim Update 3, which the actual proper release of that is probably going to be at least a few months off now, but I think at that point, that will be the switch over point for where I think it'll be really, really hard for your hardcore Flight Sim 2020 players to be like, oh, hang on, now there really is no reason not to jump over. Now, the other day, we were testing Sim Update 2, and what really does stand out, and not in a positive way, are the default Asobo aircraft, right? If you play some mod planes, the quality difference is quite significant. Not all the Asobo stuff's terrible. In fairness, this helicopter's perfectly adequate, fun to fly around, but the F-16, or was it the F-18? I always get them mixed up. The physics on that are bananas. If you've ever played DCS or any other combat flight simulator, it flies like a blimp with a jet attached to it. Doesn't make any sense. Good fun, but mental. And then you have stuff like the Chinook helicopter, which is fun to fly. It's got, it looks great. The sound is incredible, but it still has bugs. Like if you open the window, the helicopter explodes. Which I I don't think the real Chinook does that, but maybe it does. It's a secret self-destruct option for if the Taliban hijack your plane. I don't know. Or hijack your helicopter. But, you know, there's still a lot of jank in this. Also, you know, stuff like flying under bridges. Some of them are okay. Some of them cause helicopters to do mental things still. The turbulence seemed a bit better on the on the light aircraft. The oscillation seemed to be reduced. There's a bug where if you're just flying in a straight line and you have turbulence on, it can oscillate in a weird way. When we were testing, that seemed to be reduced, though it could have just been the conditions of that flight, so I need to test that more. So I think they have done some fundamental stuff with flight dynamics. Weirdly, the helicopter ground effect also seemed a little bit better to me. I'm not sure what's going on there because I don't think they actually changed that. So maybe that's just me being totally insane. Maybe I just got used to Microsoft Flight Sim helicopters or have much better settings on my joystick. I don't know. But the point is, I think your mega hardcore flight simmers, of course, you're going to want to get mod stuff in there. The base stuff by Asobo, as I say, is all over the place. It's probably good enough. Even the worst stuff's probably good enough for the casual players, especially people playing with gamepads and with all the assists on. They're not going to notice. But your hardcore sim fans will notice these things. And again, that's the kind of thing that makes them want to just stick to Flight Sim 2020, or a lot of them have actually gone to X-Plane, because they are going to focus and fixate on those sort of really hyper-specific details. So Flight Sim 24 is still in that kind of weird mid-ground where it kind of appeals to hardcore flight simmers, but it mostly appeals to casuals, but at the same time doesn't make sense as a casual game and requires you to be quite a sim fan because it's not really engaging enough for a super casual player, and the gameplay doesn't really make sense for a super casual player. The game is just all over the place. But for me, when I play it, now that it's more stable, it runs better, less crashing, I actually really enjoy this. I don't know what's wrong with me. The game is not a good game in many ways, but every time I load it, we have a fun time. I find it really relaxing to play. I like just loading in, flying over a location, not really having to worry about changing settings. I like looking at the things from the air, the different towns, cities and countryside. I like flying low to the ground with the grass and dodging the trees. I like loading up the occasional mission gameplay modes in between doing a more casual flight. I really like this. The sound as well is particularly good, the sound design. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just like, it sounds good, so that convinces me. It's good grass, good trees, good sound, perfect game. So if you are severely brain damaged in the way that I am, probably from drinking too much tea, now I think you will really, really enjoy this. But you just have to keep in mind it is a Microsoft product and the game is going to crash more than your aircraft. Certainly be interesting to know in the comments from you guys how you found Sim Update 2, those of you that have played it, what performance improvements you've got, if you're still noticing a lot of jank, how happy you are with it, because that'll be a wider view of it than what I can give you guys, so that'll be useful for people that watch this video. So let us know in the comments section what you've had problems with, what works for you, if you're in VR, if you're on 4K, if you're on 2K, what graphics card you got. That stuff's really useful for people. But that's it. You guys got to the end of this video and are slightly closer to the end of your lives. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but well, here we are. Wasting our time playing flight sims and watching terrible YouTube content. Thank you very much for watching this. Thanks for liking and subscribing, those of you that did. Make yourselves another cup of tea. If you've had coffee, you go away. But until the next one, take care, happy flight simming, and goodbye.